Testing. Testing. Testing.
And just like magic, everyone appears on my screen.
Mayor, it looks like you've got everybody but David.
Mayor, David said he's hurrying. He'll get on here in just a few minutes. He was running past Walmart about 3 minutes ago.
All right.
Otherwise, you're live and recording, so you're ready to go.
Thank you. why don't we go ahead and get started, Connie, and we'll do some of the routine business stuff, and I'm sure David will join us by then. If I could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. And I know it's been awkward doing this on Zoom, where we're much more used to it, the beginning of a council meeting when we're in person. But if we could simply have everyone observe a moment of silence, and then at the end of that moment of silence, we'll ask Ms. Tingle-Sames to say the pledge for us.
I'll stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Karen. The way you jumped up there, you're just about healed with that leg, aren't you?
I'm getting much better. Thank you.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay. I'll draw the council's attention to Lori is acting as clerk this evening. So want to welcome her to the council meeting. Lori, normally we just let the electronic obviousness of the presence serve for the roll call. So I think you can dispense with the formal roll call, and we accept who's on the screen. Each of you should have a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting. Are there any questions or additions to those minutes?
Motion made the way they are.
Thank you.
Second.
And second, Todd. And if there are no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Each of you should have also received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate if you've received that. Thank you. Good. Oh, and Lori, I see Mr. Lusby is here, so we have full attendance. Good evening, David.
Good evening.
We do have some public comments with us tonight. It's kind of a refreshing change for the council to have some guests on the screen with us. First that signed up for public comment, Ms. Candace Whitehouse.
Oh, I'm muted. Hello. Is it okay if I screen share? I just have a couple of slides that I was going to show, if that's all right.
Be glad for you too.
Okay. I think you all might be my first screen share, so there we go.
It worked.
Worked. So for those of you who don't know, my name's Candace and I'm the director of Elizabeth Village. And we are a nonprofit in Scott County that serve women and children who are experiencing homelessness, poverty, and domestic violence. And each year I try to come and give the council an update on what we are doing, what we've accomplished over the past year, and especially for new city council folk to just get to know us in the little 5 minutes I try to fit everything in. We have been on the city's budget for a few years now, and we're very appreciative of that funding. And so we want you all to know where your funding is going, and just know what activities that we are doing and what differences we're making in our community, so you feel good about where your dollars are going on that budget line. So an overview of the past year real quick. I can't fit everything in, but it did not look like what we anticipated. I'm sure that's how everybody feels, but we were able to meet a lot of goals and continue to serve. So one of those goals was we did prevent homelessness for over 20 families in our community, and that was a little bit more difficult than anticipated with everything going on, but we are very proud to have that program in place and be able to serve individuals with our homeless prevention program. Our transitional home down on College Street, it was unable to function at the capacity that it normally does. We had to cut back to half capacity and make some other changes as far as in-person programming just to keep everybody safe and make sure that we were respecting all of the social distancing guidelines. But we have been able to serve women and children there and provide that service for homeless individuals who are in need of a shelter during this time. We also conducted the third K count. And for those of you who don't know, the K count is a statewide count of homeless individuals. It happens on the last Wednesday of every January. We are the county rep for Scott County. This is not something that we're required to do, but something that we learned wasn't happening in our community a few years ago and decided that we really need to be represented to the state. We wanted to be reporting numbers when we do have homeless here in our community. So this year we did that pandemic style. So Hannah, as you can see there, she conducted the third one, and we really leaned into our partnerships with folks like the emergency response team, Georgetown Police Department, Gathering Place. They helped us conduct kind of a scaled back count according to what the state wanted us to do this year, but we were able to report, and we feel great about that. And we're also able, if you see her backpack, able to get resources out to the community, some really valuable things go out into hands that need them. So we're really proud of that. Our domestic violence victims advocacy program underwent its first year. So it started around right now this time last year, and we have had a great first year with that. Again, it didn't look like what we thought it would, but we have had big response from women and children needing that service, and had lots of calls and clients come through that program. And we were funded again for a second year through the VAWA federal funding. So we're excited about that service being able to be provided to our community. We did expand our downtown office. So if you're unfamiliar, we are downtown on Court Street. We're the bright purple door right behind the courthouse where we would normally be meeting. And we expanded into more space, so we are able to serve more women and children in there now. But we also share that space with CASA, who were very excited, got to come to Scott County and bring their services to our community. And so now we are office buddies, and we are looking forward to building a relationship and bringing some great things to our community together. And then we implemented a diversity inclusion plan. I'll talk about that in just a second. So over the last year, our COVID-19 response, we continued with our programming, but like I've mentioned, we just shifted and pivoted that a little bit. So did a lot of virtual meetings, did a lot of services online, tried to reach a lot of folks through social media, did like our domestic violence awareness month in October. We did that pretty much all virtually. So just kind of pivoted what we were doing. One thing that we have focused on a lot over the past year is tenant advocacy and education. So a lot of things are coming out from the state about evictions and bills and the rights that tenants have, and forms that landlords need filled out, programs that are in place to help people get back, paid up on their rent, healthy at home services. And so our staff has really kept up with that. And so when women and children call, we're able to know the forms they need to fill out, know what they can do to advocate for themselves in their housing, because continuing to pay bills right now has been really difficult for lots of people, but the women and children we're working with are juggling, at-home school and lack of childcare and trying to get to work and jobs not being there. And so we've been able to help advocate in those ways. And then the needs have continued to persist over the last year. They've changed a little bit, but the same needs that we've been seeing for the last 11 years are still there and increasing. So Lastly, our future goals. We have been talking about it for a few years, but our domestic violence shelter is something that we have been planning for and laying a foundation for. And this has been a long-term goal for the past few years, and we are now stepping into what we hope is a short-term goal. We are now working with an architect to create the space that we are wanting and looking at places in our community where we feel like it would be the most effective to have a domestic violence shelter. If you haven't heard us speak before, there is not a domestic violence shelter here in our community, and there is a shortage of domestic violence resources here in Scott County. But through a feasibility study, we know that that is definitely an issue, and we feel like we are the organization that can step in and fill that gap. And especially through our last year of domestic violence victims advocacy, we feel like we have really succeeded in that and been able to step in the gap in that way. So we feel really confident in that moving forward. We would like to increase our staff, be able to provide more services. Our diversity and outreach inclusion efforts, we started that last year. We would like to continue to always be improving on that. So we have now implemented our limited English proficiency program. And so we now have access to a translating service. We have a contract with them. So if anyone calls or comes in and they English is not their primary language, we have access to a translator within minutes on the phone or really quickly in person. And so we are able to serve individuals no matter what language they are speaking. And so we are also being really intentional and reaching out to communities where this service is needed, where this is a prevalent boundary or obstacle that they're running into. And so connecting with those communities, letting them know that we're here. And we have begun to see some people coming from that. And so we're excited to be able to provide the LEP services here in our community. We also are moving forward, trying to be intentional in reaching out to the LGBT community, letting them know that we believe that everyone deserves housing and everyone deserves to feel safe. And so being really intentional about that. All in all, we're trying to create a space where if individuals walk in, it's not just us saying, well, everyone's welcome. It's that they feel that we have planned for that, we have intentional resources for them, and that we have prepared for whatever obstacle they feel like is in their way, so that way they can reach the services that they need. So that's something that we've been really working on. Lastly, last thing, rapid rehousing in Scott County. That's something that we have been talking about a little bit over the last year. This is something we're just starting to get dug into. I talked to the judge a little bit about it. This week I'm meeting with HHTK about it. And we are trying to look at what rapid rehousing we could bring in or build up in Scott County. I really think that could alleviate some of the pressure on our transitional home and the shelters and getting people housed so that way they can receive the services while they are already housed. So like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have right now, or if you'd like to reach out to me individually. I'm happy to meet with anybody safely, or if anybody would like to come tour our home or come tour the office, I'm happy to have you, especially if you're new on the council. You'll probably be hearing from me. I want you all to know what we're doing, where your money is going, know what we're doing, the activities that we're doing. We try to be very transparent, so feel free to reach out anytime throughout the year, not just after this presentation, but we'd love to chat with you. I know I emailed Tracy the letter requesting funds and then our budget as well, so hopefully you all have that on computer in hand, how that works. But if any of you didn't get it, just let me know. Does anybody have any questions?
They have not received the budget request yet.
Okay.
We package those and distribute the budget.
Gotcha. So you'll be getting them soon then, hopefully.
Hey, Mayor, I have just a quick question for on your homeless count, how many did you come up with? What was your count this year?
So they haven't released the final numbers yet.
Okay.
I cannot remember off the top of my head what the rough number was, but they don't normally release them until the fall, unfortunately.
Okay, if you get those and you think about it, let us know.
Yeah, will do.
Okay.
You actually got involved with the K count, Karen, when folks started realizing we were turning in K count census numbers of 0 homelessness in Georgetown. Knowing that's not the case, this organization stepped up and tried to at least get some sense of what the population looks like. Thank you, Candace. Let's see, Lori, we had, we also, for public comments, we have a letter that a resident wrote and asked be read as a public comment. We don't typically read letters that we receive into the council record. However, during the pandemic, when we haven't been available to the public, when citizens have asked for that to happen, we've accommodated that in the past. So Devin, I believe you're going to read a letter from Vincent Morris, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Dear Georgetown Council members, we have had the opportunity to meet with GPD staff and line personnel over the past several months. One of the challenges of our current law enforcement in Scott County is the limited resources our police department has to work with. It is our belief that the citizens of Georgetown would be better served if our police officers were paid to at least the average level of pay and our police department was staffed with personnel equal to similar sized cities in Kentucky. This letter is to voice our support for an increase in Georgetown's insurance premium equal to the average insurance premium paid in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This funding is badly needed in Georgetown to properly support all our first responders. We are asking that this letter please be read into the record during the appropriate council session. Thank you very much for your consideration. With kind regards, Apostles Vincent and April Morris, Leadership Team General Membership for Restorer of Paths International Ministries.
Thank you, Devin. And I see we have another guest on the screen tonight. Do we have other public comment? No?
I believe he's here with Chase, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
I have a few guests, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there are no further public comments, then I do have a couple of mayor's comments that I'd like to share with the council. First thing, I want to assure the council that we are tracking very closely any news that we can get as it unfolds about potential stimulus money. As this stimulus package works its way from the Senate back to the House now, I believe it'll be considered in the House tomorrow. So assuming that passes, we know that it does include some money for state and local governments. We've seen a dollar amount, but we don't think it's certain, and I'm hesitant to mention that. And we've received zero guidance on what the purpose of these potential stimulus funds will be. We've got no guidance at all. But KLC is expected to have some guidance if this passes, available to us on Friday. Just wanted you to know that we are monitoring this very closely and watching for any opportunities that Georgetown might have to participate in that. Also something that I know is on every council member's mind, I've had the opportunity to speak with several of you, is the incident that happened last week concerning police officer Michael Johnson and the horrific incident that Officer Johnson survived and was not severely injured because he had that ceramic plate addition to his body armor. Who knew that a knife will penetrate body armor? And his body armor was penetrated. by the knife, but the ceramic plates, they had been issued those ceramic plates on Tuesday. This incident happened on Thursday. The Georgetown Police Department, through their own initiative, sought the grant, paid for, and purchased those ceramic plates. Didn't cost the taxpayers anything. Much the way later tonight we'll approve purchases for the fire department where they've gotten grants. But just wanted to point out that we had a great outcome. There are two things that, besides Officer Johnson being with us tonight, I want you to recall that 1 week prior to this incident, Chief Bossy recognized this officer for saving a citizen's life. Also want you to know that because we had multiple incidents occurring at the same time that evening that took up several officers' time, Officer Johnson responded to this call by himself. And Officer Johnson, when he needed assistance, was backed up by the Scott County Sheriff's Department because our officers were busy doing their job. But it's the other thing I want you to know is that was reported to me is the public comments throughout the crowd that gathered at the scene were comments about, I can't believe they hurt our policeman. I can't believe that our officer almost got hurt. There were statements from the community that gathered that were clearly in support of the Georgetown Police Department and the officer. And that may be the most encouraging thing that I heard about the entire incident. So just wanted to share that with you. Because we continue to hear legitimate complaints about the condition of Old Oxford Road, and especially how dangerous the shoulders are. I wanted you to know that the county also gets those complaint calls. Now they direct them to me, but the county also gets similar complaint calls. So I'm delighted to report to you that Judge Covington and County Road Foreman J.R. Brandenburg have reached out to the city, and we're going to work on a collaborative effort to improve the shoulders of Old Oxford Road, at least until we can get to the point of rebuilding it. The county has a shouldering machine, a very effective big tool that builds shoulders on roads. What we've talked about doing is Georgetown providing the materials, traffic control, and some of the general labor. The county would provide the shouldering machine and the operator and that expertise. And together, city and county government could help a situation that we can't afford to completely do at one time right now. So as soon as the blacktop plant opens, which is going to be pretty soon, we'll get that joint city-county effort underway. And wanted to tip my hat to the judge and JR for reaching out to us with that proposed help. So for all your many calls you get about Old Oxford, they're being heard, and we're going to try our best to make some improvements. Our Public Works Department started today moving moving some of the dirt out at the UCO Inn where the parking lot is being improved. We're going to move some of the dirt to remove one of the big mounds that was near the parking area. Then working with Hamilton and Hinkle on that parking area will be substantially enlarged. It'll be paved. You won't have to drive through mud puddles every time you go to the UCO Inn. There'll also be handicapped access to the rear of the property where we have none today. And also wanted to let you know that These activities are being carried out by the 501c3, the not-for-profit organization that we formed to take over operation of the garden when the garden trustees retired several years ago. The former volunteer trustees from the Education Foundation have retired, and this 501c3 is now operating UCON, and they will use some contribution from Hamilton and Hinkle, and they've also secured funds from the Education Foundation. So all these improvements to the city's UCON will be done at no cost to the city of Georgetown. For anybody that wasn't on the chamber luncheon Zoom today, Old Friends opens April the 1st. That's got to be good news and a sign of springtime and perhaps some normalcy. Also wanted to let the council know, if you're noticing a lot of litter, you're not alone. We've had more complaints about litter. We're seeing more litter on the rights of way than I think we've ever seen before. Several things are at play there. It's a long, hard winter. There's a lot of trash around. I don't know if it's COVID related and people eating out, but there seems to be a lot of fast food wrappers everywhere, just general trash. The other thing that's different this spring is that due to COVID concerns and other activities, the Scott County Jail is no longer providing us with the trustee crews that we had before. And a lot of our general cleanup and a lot of those activities were done by inmates. That's not available to us now. So we're working on a large scale city, county cleanup day, week, month, whatever it's going to be. Arlene is working with Jared Holland from the county. We've had Dr. Mark King offer to get involved from a corporate point of view and perhaps with contributions. Hope to engage civic clubs and churches, and the people are disagreeing about everything, but we can agree on having a beautiful, clean community for the springtime. And that's something we can all gather around, and we're trying to work on that joint city-county cleanup. If you get a chance and you wish to participate, just a reminder about the revenue projections that we gave you the paperwork to do. Again, those are voluntary. They're not a requirement that you do them. And none of the results are ever going to be shared. It's just an exercise. If you wish to participate, I wanted to remind you that that clock is ticking. And then March the 20th through March the 27th is Georgetown Eats. Special week to, I think restaurants will have special events and specials and promotions. So let's all go out to eat or get carry out or eat on a patio during Georgetown Eats. I think it also applies, I was told, to bars. So it must be Georgetown Eats and Georgetown Drinks, but March 20th through 27th. And those are all of my mayor's comments. Any questions about those? Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is GMWSS, and Chase has 2 fairly routine items and one that will represent the largest amount of money Georgetown City Council's ever spent. So Chase, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could run through the purchase orders and get those out of the way first. We have a purchase order for Aulet Chemical, and this is for in the amount of $33,960. And this is for 12,000 gallons of chemical for phosphorus removal at wastewater plant 2. This is a budgeted item and purchased through our annual chemical bid contract. The second purchase order is for Evoqua Water Technologies in the amount of $48,280. This is for our semi-annual carbon exchange, and this is purchased through a sole supplier. It is a budgeted item. answer any questions that the council has about those two items.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Connie. Motion's been made to approve those two purchase orders.
Second.
And Tammy is a second. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. Chase, we might take a few more minutes on item C.
Yes, sir. If I could, I'd like to allow, I believe, two folks that are on, just to introduce them. Mr. John Martin, he is with GRW Engineers. He is our project manager for the wastewater treatment plant number 1 upgrade and expansion. And I'm not sure, I see a phone number. It might be Mr. Joe Henry. He's a vice president with GRW. And I thought I saw him flash on, but I'm not sure if he's still on or not. And I did want to let the council know that the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Mr. Les Jarvis, he wanted to be here tonight. He was held up today at a business meeting, so I'm not sure if he'll make it on here or not. But just so the council knows who those folks are, on your last agenda item for Georgetown Municipal in your council packet, you have 2 memos, one from Mr. John Martin and one from me regarding recommendation of award for the wastewater treatment plant number 1 upgrade and expansion construction project contract. And before I asked for council consideration of that contract, I thought it was necessary, if permitted by the council, that I could walk you through a very brief presentation. I think I can do this in about 20 minutes, and hopefully this will give you the information you need to make the decision before you tonight on this contract.
Chase, if I could just, for the council's benefit, this is such a large approval. We wanted you to not overwhelm you with technical detail, but to give you a fair amount of technical detail. And we also thought it important for you to be able to visualize where the plant expansion is and what it will look like. So there's no surprise or shock later, because this expansion will take up a significant portion of some of the land that we retained in our Cardone transaction. We're doing the best we can, and this, what you'll see tonight, is the best that we can. Council has already approved the property swap transaction, the results of which you'll see in Chase's presentation. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I'm going to share my screen. Does everybody see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. There we go. And just a quick overview of the presentation. We're going to take a look back at how we've gotten to this point, how this project's evolved since the start, and what's the current state of our existing wastewater plant. What challenges are we facing? So through that, I'm going to jump to kind of a overview of the design. And again, this is going to be an overview. If the council wants further details, I'm happy and I'm prepared, as is Mr. Martin, to jump into those details. But I've tried to do this in a way of what I thought council would want to hear in order to make their decision. I'm going to talk to you all about the construction contract, the schedule, the bids we've received, the low bid and the deductive alternatives that you're going to see that will help you arrive at the final contract price. Our apparent low bidder is Judy Construction, so we want to have a little discussion on their background with this type of work. And finally, we'll do questions and our recommendation of award for this contract. So the board and the council and the general public have heard me talk about, and the mayor as well, talk about sewer capacity probably more than you wanted to hear over the last 2 years. And at this point, I've made public our capacity. We know we need additional capacity at wastewater 1, and we know we need it quickly. However, if you've not visited the plant before, you won't know about the other conditions at the plant that are driving this project in addition to the capacity constraints. So first of all, we've got flooding issues. This is the south side of the plant, what we call the south side. And luckily, these structures are not in service, but we experience bad flooding. Talking about capacity, when we have wet weather events and stormwater and groundwater get into our system, we experience overflows at the plant. This is our existing works of our plant, and when the water gets too high, we bypass water out onto the ground. We have structural concrete issues. This is caused by just wear and tear of a plant, the corrosive environment, and the gases that the plant has. It's up concrete. This is a picture of a walkway.
You're cutting out just a little bit.
I'll try to talk more directly right in.
All right, thank you.
This is a picture of, again, a walkway, and we had a person fall through this walkway because the concrete gave way underneath them, and it's only by the grace of God that they didn't drown in this channel. We have constant maintenance issues. As council knows, it's rare that a month goes by that I don't bring a purchase order to you all for a major repair effort at Wastewater 1. This is just aeration equipment where we've got a broken shaft. It happens more than we like, and it's due to the age of the plant. Constant maintenance issues. Here you see one of our operators that's in the clarifier removing hair and debris from the clarifier. That is just a constant maintenance issue. We have antiquated controls. We have antiquated electronics in this plant, electrical service. We do not have adequate sludge management capacity to keep up with the demand, and we have a very challenging time dealing with our management, our staff, their know-how. They somehow keep up, but that is not going to be something that they can do for much longer. And we've got abandoned structures on the southern side of Elkhorn that are not only an eyesore, I believe they're a major safety concern with just the state of disrepair that these structures are sitting there with no maintenance, and again, I feel is a safety hazard with our folks that are working in this area. Jumping on, I'd like to very quickly let the council know, as I said, about the evolution of this project. You're hearing this this evening. We've been working on this for over 2 years, though. In late 2018, you know that we started and then in 2019 completed a full system assessment. That was what led to and was the basis of a rate study, led to a 5-year rate increase, stepped increase, with the lion's share of that increase needed for this project. That happened before we ever even pulled GRW in for our design. So first thing we did, the board, staff, GRW, as well as folks in the mayor's office, we went through a site selection process where we looked at and evaluated 7 sites, one of those being the existing site for expansion, but 6 others for a brand new plant at a different location. We quickly realized that a new site would involve redirection of over 15 sanitary sewer force mains and gravity sewer mains. With the new site, we realized that the budget would probably double overnight by moving sites, and also it would lengthen our construction schedule. Again, that was all in our planning phase. So that was where we chose to expand onto the same site, as the mayor said, expanding north on the site onto the city-owned property there at Cardone. With this project, we were required a project expansion of this magnitude to complete a regional facilities plan. That plan is a 20-year planning document for all of our wastewater infrastructure, the collection system, as well as all 3 wastewater plants. and we have to document all that information on how we're going to maintain and expand the system. That was approved by Division of Water last week. That was a really big announcement that we got that plan approved. And within that plan, that's where we look at population and flow projections, and we tried our very best to predict how growth is going to occur over the next 20 years and how we size this plant expansion appropriately to meet the capacity needs of that plant. Again, this is all in our planning process. Staff and the design team, we visited new wastewater plants in Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio to look at the latest and most innovative wastewater treatment technologies. This helped guide our process selection. It also helped guide us in knowing that in design, we were going to look at a brand new treatment process. So, then we went into design. We had the plant designed where, again, as I said, we're going with a completely new process away from what we've had in the past. We've also gone through an extensive permitting process with local, state, and federal regulators. We've advertised this project for construction bid. That was in January and February of this year. And now we're ready to award this construction contract. That's kind of a very 30,000-foot look at this process that's taken place over the last 2+ years. Now jumping into our design, what are we going to build with this contract? For context, this is a site plan of our new plant. So you know what you're looking at. This right here is the Elkhorn Creek. This is where you would find Buco in, and then up here at the top, north of this would be the Cardone property. This is our existing plant. You see our existing oxidation ditch and 2 clarifiers. That serves as the guts of our current treatment process. We are moving away from the ditch and clarifier technology. Instead of building additional ditches and clarifiers, we are going to replace that with this 1 square concrete tank. And this is called a sequential batch reactor. So all of the biological treatment process that happens here and here is now going to happen in this structure. We're also going to have a new pre-treatment building, new sludge processing facilities, and that's really the heart and soul of the new plant. We are not going to simply do away with these old structures. We have designed in repurposing this ditch as wet weather storage. So when we get that big gully washer and our system fills up with rain and groundwater, we can divert flow into this structure for storage, so it does not bypass our system and go out into the environment. And our clarifiers will be used for flow equalization. On the south side of the Elkhorn, at our really old plant that's no longer in service, all we will have is 1 new access road and a pump station here. And this pump station and road will be shielded with berms and landscaping. We will, as part of this contract, demo all of these structures to below grade, refinish this side, regrade this side, and restore it to green space for the use by the city of Georgetown. I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail here shortly. So I know what I'm looking at here, but you're probably saying, I don't know what this really means. So I'm going to try to give you a better view of it with first some computer renderings, and then we'll get to the prettier pictures. This would be what the plant through our CAD drawing looks like if you're standing north of the plant looking in the south direction towards Elkhorn Creek. You're going to have, this is our current admin building. This will be the new pre-treatment building, our sludge processing, and the We're not showing our existing ditch and clarifiers here. This is only proposed structures that will all remain in place. This is from southwest of the plant looking in a northeast direction. So Cardone would be back here, separated by multiple tree lines. But again, you'll see our pretreatment building, sludge processing, and you can see that the SBR, which is the big mass of concrete, we've tried to hide that and blend that in with site grading to make this as minimally as intrusive as possible. Again, our existing admin building that we will be expanding and renovating as part of this project, as it started out as a garage, and we have repurposed that multiple times, so it's time for some upgrades there. These are your computer generated drawings. Now let's look at what it's actually going to look like. This is a picture, compliments of the Georgetown Police Department. Their drone and their drone pilot took for us. They flew the drone up to eye level with the bell tower of Cardone and looked in a southwest direction at what our plant expansion is going to look like, and from the elevation of the bell tower. You will look out, you'll see our pre-treatment building, the roof of the building, the roof of the sludge processing building, and the SBR, which will have, it will be open top, and you will see the water there inside the SBR. Any questions there? Let's go over here to the south side of the plant. And as I said, we'll have a pump station here with an access road out to Cincinnati Pike. The rest of this will be restored to green space. Only thing not shown here is our grading berms, our earth berms that will have landscaping on top to shield the pump station. And this site will be, again, as Mayor talked about, our land swap we did back in November of last year, might have been December. This will go back to the city of Georgetown for use as what's defined in the comprehensive plan, I believe, as either trailhead or park or trail space. And as I said, the bridge will be open to public use. And what I didn't mention, going back a slide, not really visible from here, but on the southwest side of the plant, we will do our very best to grade that with berms and add landscaping to shield this plant from the south and the west side as best we can, in case there's ever any trails developed adjacent to Elkhorn Creek. So we've tried to minimize as best we can the impact of this expansion on this site. Any questions?
Please, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I apologize, you're still a little bit in and out, as the mayor
I
indicated.
apologize. I'm not sure what's wrong.
That's okay. That's all right. And I may have missed this. It might have been when, we couldn't quite hear what you were saying, but you were talking about, I think, landscaping the new building so that they're not going to be quite as visible. Is that what you were talking about just a moment ago?
Yes, sir. We have within our grading plan and a healthy landscaping allowance for the contractor that we're going to try to shield on the pump station on the south side and the entire treatment plant on the north side of Elkhorn. So it's shielded in every direction where we can.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, will the building still be somewhat visible, I guess, from parts of the Cardone property? I assume that they will.
If you're at ground level, I don't know that it will really be visible any more so than it already is. We've done the grading plan such that we lowered the structures into the earth as much as we could to make it still hydraulically work and discharge to the stream. But again, this is taken where you see just the top of the structure and the top of the rooftop. This is taken from bell tower elevation. So the lower you go, the less you're going to see.
All right, thank you.
Project schedule. The Board of Commissioners approved this construction contract last week, and obviously we're here tonight for City Council's consideration. If approved, we will issue notice of award tomorrow to the contractor and notice to proceed later this month on the 25th. Beneficial use, that's the one that's our critical milestone for this project. That is the date, December 15th of 2023, that we will be able to receive new flow at the plant. That's when we will take advantage of the 9 million gallons of capacity for wastewater plant number 1. I skipped that part. I apologize. This plant expansion takes us from 4.5 million gallons per day to 9 million gallons per day. We're doubling our average daily flow, and we're going on peak daily flow, which is our wet weather flow capacity. We're going from 13.5 million gallons per day to 36 million gallons per day. So December of 2023 is when we will be able to take advantage of the full capacity. We'll have all of our core processes for treatment online. That includes pre-treatment, the SBR, sludge processing, our filtration, and disinfection. We will have all those core processes online so we can start receiving new flow again. We'll give the contractor an additional 9 months to take the contract to 42 months on substantial completion. That gives them time to finish non-essential tasks such as finish grading, landscaping, work on the admin building, things of that nature that are not critical to receiving the new flow. Then they will receive 6 more months to take them to final completion in March of 2025. Questions on schedule? As I said, we advertised for construction bids January and February, and we received and opened on February 17th, 3 bids from Judy Construction, Adams Robinson, and Smith Contractors. Bids range from $50.2 million to $59.3 million, with the apparent low bidder being Judy Construction. That bid opening was done virtually, and it was live broadcast, similar to how we do these city council and our board meetings. Judy Construction, as I said, was the low bid with a bid of $50,210,134. That included base bid, allowances, and pre-negotiated equipment prices. They offered in their bid proposal deductive alternates in the amount of $355,302, and that was for equipment that we have researched and approved, but it was just not part of our base bid. It was equipment alternatives. So that gives us a final contract price of $49,854,832. Just in showing the council Judy's work experience, they had to submit a number of past projects and current projects show that they have the expertise to do this type of project. I picked 4 out of those many pages. This was the New Melton Hill wastewater plant in Knoxville, the West Hickman wastewater treatment plant wet weather storage in Lexington for Division of Water Quality. Those are 2 current projects. 2 past projects were the water treatment plant expansion for the city of Danville in 2017 and the Bowling Green wastewater treatment plant expansion back in 2012. Those projects ranged in magnitude on cost from $23.9 million to $59.6 million. And what I wanted to draw your attention to is the New Melton Hill plant, as well as the Bowling Green plant. Those were both SBR expansions similar to ours. So Judy Construction is familiar with this type of technology and doing this type of expansion. So recommendation of award from myself, from the design team, is that project budget that was factored into our rate model was just over $50 million, and Judy's construction contract price came in just under that at $49,854,832. Be glad to answer any questions as best I can. If I'm cutting in and out, I apologize.
Hey, Chase, it's Mark. I've got two
Yes, sir.
questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I've got two questions. The first question is how long has it been since any significant work has been done on that specific facility? How many years has it been?
The last major upgrade was in 1999.
Okay. And for somebody tuning in tonight that hasn't been keeping up with what we've been discussing over the past several months, if not longer, actually, goes back into longer than that, actually. If we do nothing at all to this facility and don't make these upgrades, can you just let us know again, and for clarification purposes, what happens if we do nothing at all and don't move forward?
Great question. And I think the largest impact that we would see would be to the development community, that we have limited capacity remaining at the existing wastewater plant number 1. And we can only approve by Kentucky administrative regulation up to a certain point, and we're almost there. I think we will be there in the very near future. And if we do not move forward with this plant, then it can receive very finite remaining capacity for requests for new development.
Thank you.
Good job, Chase. Looks good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chase, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What were the differences in the bids? What was anything significantly sacrificed going with the lower bid that the companies that put in the higher bid? What was the final analysis there?
No, ma'am. Nothing was sacrificed. They all three bid the exact same project. It's just what pricing they were able to negotiate with vendors and how they felt they could efficiently do the project. I think Judy Construction, they're out of Cynthiana. This is right in their backyard. They wanted this project and they bid it very aggressively to our benefit.
Thank you.
This has been a very long time coming to get to this point. And I think it's really important for the council to understand that as we move forward, that date of that the plant will be usable for you, Chase, December of 23. We will run out of sewer capacity at wastewater plant number 1 prior to this expansion being completed. I mean, we've said that before. I want to make sure that we continue to say it. Chase has been successful in having wastewater plant number 2 re-permitted, re-rated, so that we can have additional capacity at wastewater plant number 2 and continue to accept development in our business park and things of that in that area. Chase mentioned a very finite amount of remaining existing capacity at wastewater plant number 1. And despite our best efforts to get this under construction and completed, we will have to face that day when we run out of capacity at wastewater plant number 1. Your water board is working on what those policies look like now, and you'll get to weigh in on those policies. But that's just our reality. Chase, is it pretty accurate?
Yes, sir.
Then with that said, I think it's a very significant moment for GMWSS and for the city of Georgetown. But I think we're ready to accept a motion to approve these bids as recommended by the water board.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Motion's been made.
Second.
I'll second.
And boy, you're very good. You almost were there, Greg. I think Willow was a.
That's fine,
whispers
Willow.
were-
You got it.
Okay, thank you. If a complex issue, but I think Chase has explained it pretty well. Todd, do you have a question?
Not a question, but more of a comment. To any of the council members that haven't been out there and taken the tour, it's well worth your time. Chase and his staff do a great job, and you will actually get a better view of what is coming if you have the opportunity to go. And I encourage everyone to go do that.
Be glad to have everybody.
Good.
Mayor, I got a quick comment, if you got just a moment.
Yes, sir.
Certainly want to thank Chase and his staff who do an excellent job. I want to thank the water board for their time and effort that's been put into this. This, as you said, Mayor, this is, I guess, the largest purchase that this community, this city, certainly, I guess, has ever been involved with. We thought the infrastructure for the 911 system was, at the time, I guess, a $12 million project that was pretty big. But this certainly exceeds that. And I would say that this is, equally as important as Chase indicated. It impacts the future growth of the community. And when we talk about the future growth of the community, we're not just talking about residential growth, and we're not just talking about commercial growth, but we're talking about everything from expansions at hospitals. We're talking about restaurants, heck, even a new emergency services type buildings could be excluded from being constructed at some point. As the mayor indicated, it's you're at full capacity and nothing else can be accommodated. So that's extremely broad reaching. And this is an extremely important issue. And it's one that I certainly fully support. And I'm glad we're at this point. So anyway, thanks again, Chase, to you and your entire team.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, and I'm very pleased with the effort of our staff. I'm very pleased with our design team with GRW, and I'm got to give all the credit to the Board of Commissioners that allowed us to pursue this very aggressive design. But I do think it's the right design that will serve the community for the next 20 plus years.
David, it's unfortunate that Les Jarvis was unable to join us on the call tonight. The water board has, this last term of the water board has been a heavy term for them. They've done a lot of hard work, and this is Les's last year on the water board. He will term out at the end of this calendar year. And Les has been so incredibly patient with this mayor over the last 4 years that we'll have a chance to talk with him later. But I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, Chase, you can move forward with your project.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Item 8 on your agenda under city attorney is item A is first reading of an ordinance regarding communication services. Sponsors Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Stone. So Devin, would you mind reading that by summary?
I will. An ordinance relating to communication services in the city of Georgetown. Summary. Requires a valid franchise with the city of Georgetown for communication services in the rights of way of the city, subject to certain exceptions, and provides the nature of said franchises and establishes an application fee and process. 2. Provides that all franchisees shall pay to the city the greater of 5% of franchisees' gross revenue or $270 per antenna in the rights of way, and defines the procedure for said provisions related to the franchise fee. 3. Requires that franchisees comply with the encroachment permitting requirements imposed by the Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, and other terms and conditions that may apply to an encroachment into the city's rights of way. provides expectations for the removal or relocation of facilities, including but not limited to cost, insurance and bonding, permitting, notice, traffic delays, inspections, and repairs. 4, outlines other miscellaneous provisions and provides for transitions from existing franchises. 5, provides requirements for all franchisees providing communication service in the city of Georgetown, establishes licensing and conditions for private communication systems in the rights of way. 6, defines review, reporting, and record-keeping rights and obligations, provides for termination or cancellation, establishes duties upon foreclosure, states that time is of the essence, provides for equal employment opportunity, and defines violations and the enforcement and penalties therefor. 7, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time March 8th, 2021.
Thank you, Devin. That will constitute first reading. We'll have second reading at our next meeting, and any questions, please direct them to Devin. It's a highly technical ordinance that I think they work closely with Linda Ain, the other franchise attorney that we've done some work with. If there are no questions about that, item B, cost savings, efficiencies, and capturing lost revenues. We've told the council that we've identified a substantial list of areas where we think we can trim cost or gain revenues that we've been lacking before that already exist. Places where we need to tighten up our operations, where we can just do a better job. And what we're going to do, we're going to do our best between now and approval of the budget, and maybe ongoing, but every meeting, we're going to try to bring you a cost saving measure that we've had under consideration. Just to let you know on an ongoing basis that this is on our mind, and we'll share these ideas with you. We started with one tonight that I've asked Devin to do a deep dive on. I've mentioned it to you, and I think you'll be startled by some of the numbers. But that is, Devin has a presentation about our alarm ordinances. We have a lot of folks and a lot of businesses with alarms. We answer a lot of alarm calls. And Devin's information, I think, will be of real interest to you. Devin?
I will share my screen here. All right. Let me know when you see it.
Got it.
All right. Well, first, I'd like to thank Chief Bossy and his team, specifically Sergeant Sarah Duke, who took the initiative, honestly, to pull some of these numbers and bring a problem to our attention. So thank you to Georgetown Police Department and Sergeant Duke. So currently I'm going to move you all so I can see the screen. I'll move this guy. So since 1992, the city has regulated the installation and use of alarm systems, both commercial and residential, in the city, with the goal of reducing false alarms, which cause an unnecessary expense to the public, which soon we'll see has actually occurred. This ordinance has never been enforced, resulting in a lot of false alarm calls that require our attention, but are not a good use of public resources. So as I noted, Sergeant Duke has pulled together annual data for alarm calls and false alarm calls. And we've kind of used some not phony numbers, but we've plugged in some figures to determine the cost that's associated with that. So some notable provisions from this ordinance, it establishes requirements for alarm businesses as well as alarm users. So those are primarily focused on maintenance and assuring that these systems are properly maintained and cared for to assure that they are only alerting when they're supposed to. So our ordinance provides technical standards that need to be followed. It establishes that alarm users should obtain a permit from the city of Georgetown and establishes a penalty for failure to do so. We've never, in the city of Georgetown's history, issued an alarm permit. So as you can see, this ordinance has been in place, and it's really really never taken off. It also provides for corrective action. So when there is a false alarm, the property owner or the person responsible for the alarm essentially is responsible for submitting a report and essentially remedying that issue. And if they don't, they face revocation of their permit, which is an issue. It establishes a police consolidated alarm panel, which I'll talk about in a bit. That's kind of an antiquated idea. And then most notably, possibly, it makes this a criminal penalty, a misdemeanor punishable by a fine up to $500. And once you see the volume of these false alarms, you'll notice that that's not a very efficient or practical way to address these penalties. So here are the figures that Sergeant Duke pulled. In 2018, Georgetown Police Department responded to 1,433 alarms, and all but 10 of those were false. In 2019, they responded to 1,263, all but 2 were false. And in 2020, they responded to 1,071, and all but 8 of those were false. So you can see that over 99% of the calls that we're responding to and that we're allocating police officer and personnel resources to are truly maintenance issues with the systems for the most part. So taking the assumption that only one officer answers each call and that the call takes about 30 minutes, which as I noted, these are just some assumptions. So some calls may be longer or significantly shorter. And then taking the average rate of an officer, not including those ranks, we've got these personnel costs that we've allocated. So you can see 15,000, 13,000, 11,000 annualized cost that has just been sunk into these unmerited uses of resources. That cost does not even take into consideration overtime or incentive pay. It doesn't take into account our dispatchers who are helping respond to these calls, and equipment costs associated with officers, CERS, health insurance benefits, the depreciation of GPD's vehicles and other equipment, and potentially most terrifying is the officer shortage it creates, specifically on third shift where a majority of these calls occur. And as we've noted in the past, that's a shift that, we're understaffed and we can't afford to waste a single minute of officer time. So GPD is unable to practice proactive policing. I know Chief Bossy's spoken about this a lot in the past, that he wants the staffing and the capacity to be proactive in the community, and issues like this really hinder their ability to do that. So it truly exposes the community to an unnecessary risk, and our goal is to find a remedy for that and try to mitigate that waste of resources. So as Mayor mentioned, this is simply information for the council to consider. There's no action requested this evening, but here are some recommended amendments that we can make moving forward. First would be to give the alarm users and businesses time to get in compliance. We've had an ordinance on the books for almost 30 years that's never been enforced. And I don't think it'd be a very good faith act to suddenly just start enforcing it on people when we've created this precedent. So if we make these amendments, we would ultimately give the businesses and users a period under which to obtain the permit, get the maintenance documentation, and anything else that's required under the ordinance. We would definitely want to alter the penalty provisions and create a civil penalty, perhaps enforcing this through the code enforcement process, which would give us an easy way to recover those costs that we've expended in cases of false alarms. We could create a ladder of penalties. Some of the data really shows that these are repeat offenders, some places in double digits annually. So a lot of these are businesses, actually a majority of them are businesses from my understanding, but using that ladder of penalties would create an incentive for those repeat offenders to get into compliance. I think we should consider eliminating the provision that resets the number of violations annually. But once again, these are just recommendations, and we can, as a group, work on the best solution. And then another consideration is that our current ordinance, after I believe it's 5 false alarms and failure to report and remedy, it says that we're not going to respond to that property anymore. And I think there are certain issues with that provision that we can address, and maybe find a better way to approach that instead of cutting off service to a property owner and assuming that liability. So as Mayor noted, this is the information that we have in front of us, and our goal is to find a way to amend our ordinance and roll this out such that everybody benefits. This is a negative for the community, and it's a negative for our budget. So I think we have a lot of good options by which we can fix this issue and capture some of these lost resources.
Yeah, just can you imagine over 3 years' time, our police officers responded to 3,700 calls, and 20 of them were legitimate. Over a 3-year period, it just, those numbers are stunning to me. We should expect, if we're going to provide this service of responding to alarm calls, then I think we have to have a system that lets us provide the service in a reasonable way. And this is clearly not a reasonable scenario that we're dealing with now. We can address this, and we can really become more efficient. And it's in no way intended to be punitive, but it is certainly intended to quit wasting, repeat offenders to quit wasting our resources. Do those numbers shock you all as much as they shock me?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I have a question, Devin. You said the majority were businesses. Are there residential calls as well?
Yes, there are definitely residential calls. The list that I was provided of kind of the high flyers, the frequent flyers, those were primarily commercial, but there are definitely residential situations as well. I know we have, I don't know if GPD would know figures on how many alarm systems are in the city. We wouldn't know because we don't collect permits. So any system that's programmed to go to, the 911 center would need to obtain a permit moving forward. But yes, they're primarily commercial.
And what were you thinking on or had you thought that far on what a permit might cost?
We did not intend, well, the original ordinance did not require any kind of fee to obtain the permit. The permit is free. The purpose of it is just to submit the documentation that you are, and the permit would be held on site. So a property owner, if the police showed up and it was a false alarm, or even if it wasn't a false alarm, they would have to furnish that permit to the officer. If they didn't, there would be a penalty, or if it was within the 6-month period, our officers could say, hey, we just passed this ordinance, within 3 months or however long, you're going to need to obtain a permit and XYZ. So during that period of time, we would probably develop some kind of a brochure to make it easier on the officers just to hand over. So those citizens are aware. But we will, assuming we move forward with this, we will definitely work with the paper and other tools to make sure the public is aware of this amendment, even more so than we are with typical publication requirements.
Gotcha. And so there would be no additional cost to anyone unless they violate or have the false alarms.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And Tammy, this may be something that we refer to the police committee to maybe work through some discussions with both Devin and Chief Bossy. And obviously, this is something the council needs to address. We can't continue to tolerate this. And maybe you all could help bring a proposal back for the council's consideration.
Sure, that sounds reasonable.
And in that vein, Mayor, I primarily was working with Sergeant Duke initially, but I've also been working with Lieutenant Moore at the dispatch center based on some of the technical portions of the ordinance and understanding what actually happens when it's not 1992 anymore. So we're operating in a different way, but I intend to work with him, police and Colson, Chief Colson on this, because I know that fire responds to these calls as well. So I plan to bring all first response departments in on a proposed amendment and take it from there.
Yeah, I was actually texting you
I don't know if it needs to be a separate document or not, but, include some language for the fire department as well would be good.
So
And
as you move
fire
forward,
is included in the current ordinance.
so Devin, as you move forward on that, just Karen and I are both on the police committee, and I know I would be very happy to meet, to discuss, to move forward with this, work with you on this, okay?
Great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Devin. And this is an example of what we're going to try and bring to you each meeting. And we'll process through. Some ideas will be bigger, some will be smaller, but we've started this process and we're going to try and stay on this path with you.
Mayor, and this has been a long time in coming, and I'm glad that Chief Bossy and Sergeant Duke brought this forward. My work with the police department and at the college, the false alarms are just amazing. The numbers that come through there. So not surprising, but it is a big money item for the city in responses for.
Thank you, Todd. Let's see. Item 9, under Finance Director, we have a second reading of the Budget Amendment Ordinance. So, Devin, I'll let you read the summary, please.
You all will be tired of hearing my voice. An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Summary. General Fund. Prior year revenues are decreased by $3,929,390.26. General revenues are increased by $3,524,680. General government expenses are increased by $14,940. Police expenses are decreased by $447,792.92. Fire expenses are decreased by $327,34. Public works expenses are increased by $40,740. Community services expenses are increased by $9,700. Interlocal expenses are increased by $177,530. Transfers to other funds are increased by $7,500. Capital expenditures are increased by $125,000. Business Park Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $195,193. Business park expenditures are increased by $195,193. Grant Fund. Federal grant revenues are increased by $852,212.89. Police expenses are increased by $457,429.55. Fire expenses are increased by $394,783.34. Cemetery Fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $7,500. Transfers from other funds are increased by $7,500. Cemetery expenses are increased by $15,000. Capital Projects Fund. Other revenues are decreased by $10,250. Capital expenses are decreased by $10,250. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time February 22nd, 2021. Publicly read for the second time March 8th, 2021.
Thank you, Devin. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you, Connie.
Second.
And a second. Thank you, Tammy. Any questions for Stacy? If not, we'll ask Ms. Laurie to call the roll.
Ms. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone? Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Ms. Tingle Sands?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Miss Leslie Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Hambrick.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries and that ordinance is approved. Thank you, Stacy. We kept you up late and you didn't even have to answer a question.
No
But-
problem. I'll stick around for the next one too.
Stick with us because we may need you. Okay. Also under Finance Director, item B is second reading of an ordinance amending the insurance premium tax rate. Sponsors Mr. Lesby and Ms. Tackett. So Devin, would you read the summary, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance amending Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Section 36-93 to provide for an 8% license tax rate on insurance companies engaging in business within the City of Georgetown's corporate limits. Summary. 1. Amend Section 36-93 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances to provide an 8% license tax rate on insurance companies engaging in business in the City of Georgetown. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, an effective date upon passage and publication, and instructs Kentucky's Executive Director of Insurance to take necessary measures to implement the ordinance lawfully. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time on February 22nd, 2021. Publicly read for the second time March 8th, 2021.
Thank you, Devin. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion for approval, Mayor.
Thank you,
I
Devin.
second the motion.
And Todd, I think Connie edged you by a split second, but
That's
thank
fine.
you. All right. We definitely have a second. And I appreciate that. This issue has been discussed extensively. We've been working on this for probably 2 years now. And would be glad to answer any questions that council members may have about the ordinance or any comments that anybody might have.
I have some questions, Mayor. I don't know if you would allow me to ask Chief Balsey a couple of questions if I could.
Sure.
Chief Balsey, as it pertains, if we can go back to the incident that happened late last week that the mayor referred to earlier in the meeting tonight. Under normal circumstances, and again, it sounds like I think last Thursday was not normal at the time this incident was called in. Under normal circumstances, would 2 officers respond to that type call, or would just 1 officer respond to that type call?
That call was designated as a disorder, and it would have required 2 officers to respond if they were available.
Okay. Second question is, in regards to that same incident, at that time of evening, how many Georgetown police officers are patrolling the street on a typical night, at any night of the week?
At that time during the evening, we have a minimum staffing of 4 police officers and 1 sergeant.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mayor, if I could, I know we started these discussions about a year ago before the pandemic hit. And I know, unfortunately, Mr. Hampton and Mrs. Hambrick were not privy to those conversations that we were having, or they might have listened to those conversations, but they weren't involved, as involved as the other 6 of us were. And again, no offense to either one of you. To me, that we got really lucky last week. We as a community got really lucky. And I think that to me, having 4 officers on the street on any given night the size of Georgetown is unacceptable. Again, I'm not speaking for anybody else on this call. I'm speaking for me. It's unacceptable. And we've known for at least a year, maybe even longer, that we have 2 issues with our first responders, and that's not having enough personnel and the salary the salaries that we're paying are not as competitive as they need to be. And I'm in complete support of this tonight. And I hope that each of us really think this through before we vote on it, because we owe it not only to our first responders, but we also owe it to our community to make sure that we're providing the protection to our community. And again, to me, 4 officers on the street at nighttime is unacceptable. And, you know, the easy thing for us to do would be to not do anything at all. And that, to me, that's unacceptable. So I think we have to act. I don't think we have a choice. And I'm in complete support of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
I have a question too as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And just listening to the reading of the ordinance, I just wanted to make sure that you said insurance companies operating inside of Georgetown, and does this include insurance companies that operate outside of Georgetown but cover the homes and the automobiles that are registered in Georgetown? Just making sure.
Yes, any insurance company that insures a risk inside of Georgetown, no matter where they're positioned, if they're conducting business in Georgetown, they don't have to necessarily be physically located here. So we collect from all over the place.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I could make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard from many constituents online and on the phone and by email, and I've only heard out of probably 24 2 that had questions about whether or not this was really necessary. One person who was on a limited income and was hopeful that we wouldn't go forward with something that might further erode that. Everybody else, to a person, was alarmed at seeing the salary disparities with our peer communities and also the personnel gaps that we have. So I wholeheartedly am in support of this, not only because I believe it's necessary personally, but I also believe that it has the support of the larger community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, I've got a quick comment, if you would. I guess we've all had the opportunity to review the presentation that you and your staff, and I know Andrew in particular, he and Stacy have put together for us. And as you said earlier, it's something that we've been talking about and working on for literally 2 years now. And it would have happened sooner, at least it would have been brought to the council sooner had it not been for COVID. And we certainly took that into consideration as we did with everything. Even the 911 fee, we took that into consideration. We delayed it towards the end of the year. And to me, this is the next appropriate step to follow the 911 fee that was unanimously passed. We made a commitment to our employees, to our emergency responders, that we're going to get their pay in line, and we were going to address some of the shortfalls that we had, especially with the police department in terms of personnel, most immediately. And this is the only way to achieve that. I mean, there may be other ways, but this is we haven't heard any of the other ways. We're holding off on the gross receipts versus the payroll tax. Obviously, that would certainly be a mechanism to address those shortfalls. But this is the one that is before us now, and seems to be most appropriate. The other thought is that some folks have asked about sunsetting, and yes, we did that several years ago, but the economy, it was totally different then compared to the way it is now. Georgetown's economy is actually in much better shape today than it was at that time. At that time, we were looking for and hoping for a recovery that did take place, that improved our economic situation. And today, our economic situation in this community is very good, surprisingly very good, considering what we've been through. And we absolutely know that we have additional expenses, increased expenses ahead of us that we're going to have to address. If we want to bring the police up to where we have committed, and if we simply bring the fire department up to that same level, that I believe that was the 49,500 level, and then we make some of the other cost of living increases this year, and I'm being a bit rough here, but those numbers add up to $1 million, just $1 million in the upcoming budget year. So half the revenue that we could potentially bring in from this increased insurance premium tax would essentially be committed, assuming that we all come to terms with what those increases need to be. But that's very real. And then we also know that within the next few years, the CERS increase is going to continue to take place, and that's going to well exceed $1 million. So I mean, just those two things alone are going to eat up this potential increased revenue. On top of that, we have the shortfall with the revenue that we receive from the gasoline tax. I mean, that's at least $500,000 a year. And what I'm talking about doesn't include any capital improvements whatsoever. We haven't had capital improvements for years. Matter of fact, we've kind of put the police department off on some of the vehicles that they needed. Thank goodness they've been able to obtain some grants, and I believe we have come through with some other items that they've been able to utilize personally there at the department. But we did kind of go lean on some of the vehicles. So the needs are certainly there. The other thing that I would say is it looks like our citizens, most of our citizens, and some of those that may be most concerned about any additional increase in a tax are going to get some stimulus money, perhaps $1,400. And I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but that would certainly help them this year anyway to offset this. But I go back to what I said earlier, is I just don't see that we have another reasonable or better alternative than this increase. None of us want to do it. None of us, but you know what? It's our responsibility, and it's upon us. And I'm very good with it, and that's why I'm in full support. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that anyone has, and listen to maybe some comments from some others now.
Thank you, David. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
This is what you all know how I feel about increased taxes, but like Willow said, I got a little bit of negative feedback on it. Some of it was on people that were on fixed incomes, and we've already raised some rates for the water, things like that. But the community last year during the summertime, I mean, as the police chief put it, we had a hot summer, and we're probably going to have another hot summer, as he put it. So there is a safety issue in Georgetown going on. Is it for lack of police officers? Probably yes. Do we need to get our police officers up to and our first responders where they need to be? Definitely, because we don't want them leaving. We want them to stay because it's cost effective for us for them to stay. So, it's one, I kind of have to support it, because I think one of the big obligations that the community we as the city council have to our community is to keep them safe. So if the police department is telling us these are the tools they're looking for to keep us safe, then we kind of have an obligation to give them those tools and keep them safe so that they can go out there and keep the community safe. They can keep the community safe. And just like our officer I mean, when I heard that he got stabbed, I was like, oh my goodness, Georgetown, you get stabbed in Georgetown. You know, that's not the community I want to be in. So the officers need the safety too and the support. So I'm going to have to support the tax because I think Georgetown's in a situation we need extra officers. So that goes to the question to the mayor. How soon will we be hiring more officers?
I'll ask Chief Bossy to respond to that, but as soon as we can, Karen, I think as soon as we present you with a budget that actually includes these salaries in an official way and a personnel ordinance that actually increases the head count. Tonight, we're potentially providing the revenue for those things. The council will still have to act on personnel ordinance and the actual budget.
So it'll be hooked into the budget then.
It'll be July 1st, yes, ma'am.
Is there with the chief, if we pass the budget officially in June, because a lot of times we pass it early in June. If we pass it early in June, they can start the process of hiring or start the interviews and all that it takes.
Yes, ma'am. We've already started that. We've already made that decision. So once we know that will happen, we've already decided to start the process 2 months early and so that when we're given the number.
Chief, we're not hearing you.
How about now?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we have discussed that, and we will have a process in place and have a list on standby so that we'll draw from that list on the moment on July 1st, if we know what that number is.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Mayor, just real quick, I'm in full support of this as well, but I just want to add one more thing. When we're talking about our police officers, I got a message from the Child Advocacy where they have police officers for children and they build a trust with them. And then when we lose them, they have to rebuild that trust with someone else. And it's very difficult and traumatizing for them. So for us being able to move forward like this and be able to retain our officers, that's going to be huge for that division as well. So I'm in full support too.
Good. And we've done publicity has been such that we've really focused on the police department and justifiably so. The work that your fire department is doing as well, they're included in the same initiative in terms of class and the advances that they're making. I just want to make sure that we have a balanced picture tonight. That the action that you're considering will benefit all of our first responders, and especially with the fire department commitment, doing their best to keeping 4 men on the crew. And we fall short of that too regularly. And the additional personnel in that department solves some real deficiencies as well. I just want to make sure that we have a Chief Colson, I'll say that so you don't have to, that all of our first responders will benefit from this. Real.
Mayor, if I can, you were a little bit in and out. I guess it's happening to all of us tonight, but I thought I included the fire department in the pay increases as well as all other employees, and I may have even left out public works, but I feel like that's something that we've all talked about needs to be addressed as well. And that was how I was coming up with my $1 million when it's actually $1,150,000 to be exact. But anyway, if I left out the fire department, I'm sorry about that.
No, I was just spreading the love around. Thank you, David.
Mayor, if I may add,
Yes, sir.
I too, like Karen, just really do not like tax increases. I never have. I've always been an advocate of cutting expenses first and then revenue increases. But, just looking at things, I've realized that it's just not possible to cover the shortfall with expense cuts only. So, probably I've had 24 emails and calls in support of the increase, and I've only had one that opposed it. So, with that said, I want to support our first responders and make sure that they have all the adequate resources that they need. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Greg. Any other questions or comments before I ask Lori to read the roll? If not, Lori, it's all yours. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Ms. Hambrick,
Yes.
Ms. Lesby Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Tingle Sams,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Thank you, Laurie. That passes unanimously, and I think that's a really important message that you as council members have sent to your first responders. I know that message will be well received, and it makes me very proud. I'd like to say thank you for the council members that were willing to do so deep of a dive a year ago, and even our new council members have read A Brighter Future and are up to date with all this analysis. The work that you all have done to understand the city's circumstances. This is typically a heavy lift, but you did your work. Chief Colson, Chief Bossy, and to your command staffs, thank you for working with us to get to this point. I think that's been vital to help the council understand where we are. And then I want to point out, we did all of this work based on data and analysis. I don't think we could have accomplished this tonight had we not had a common understanding of what the issues are and what the data shows us. And that data gave us an opportunity to have a conversation around facts. Not every city has that kind of recording available to them. And I'd like to recognize the incredible work that Andrew Hartley, Lacey Clark helped. I tried to give a helpful thought now and then, but this ground was plowed for us very well with the data that we have. And I want to make sure that I acknowledge Andrew's contribution to that. This will also be the data with which we discuss our next step, which is a potential change in gross receipts versus net profits. It's just more of a conversation that as we have it around data, we're able to have successful outcomes. So I thank the council, and Andrew, thanks for this very good work that got us here. Item 10 on your agenda under fire department, another great example of the department paying for their own stuff and finding it. We have a resolution accepting a thermal imaging grant. I don't think we have to read the whole thing. Chief, anything you'd like to add on that?
No, sir. I would just like to add, thank you, council, for the tough steps you all have taken over the past few months. Once those numbers get plugged in, it'll have a tremendous impact on our, our recruitment, retention, and just positive for the outlook of the future.
Sounds good.
But on this particular grant, it is the thermal imager grant is a 50-50 match. The state does match up to $3,200, and whatever we spend, we do have the funds within our current budget to take care of that.
Sounds good. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second, Karen. If there are no questions for the chief, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Chief, item B, resolution accepting a public education grant. Can you tell us about that?
It's also through the fire commission. It's in the sum of $1,000. There's no match required. So Assistant Chief of Prevention will determine where that money gets spent, but no match required.
Sounds good. Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Willow. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tammy. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Very good.
Thank you all.
Item 11 on your agenda under Public Works is a municipal order approving a bid for Herbies. For the new council members, we have to buy a truckload of Herbie every year. And every 3 years, the second load of Herbies. And that's due to two reasons. In part, growth. There's more households, more Herbies. People requesting a second Herbie, and we break a lot of them. So is there a motion to approve a truckload of Herbie? Thank you, Bud. And Greg with the second. If there are no questions there, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. According to my agenda, we're down to my favorite part of the meeting, which is council comment. So let's see. Karen, could we start with you, please?
Sure. I had someone in the shop today, and they are looking for streetlights. And I told them we've done lots of discussion on streetlights, but the street they live on is Maplewood Drive up in Old Armstrong. So I was kind of surprised they didn't have streetlights up there. But she said on their street they didn't. Over on Lee or some of the others in Old Armstrong they did, but she said neither direction on her street had them. So I think she was going to call Eddie, or I told her to call your office as well, but I told her I had a meeting tonight. So streetlights were always an issue in town, that I would bring it up and double check on that.
Good. Is Eddie still on with us? Andrew?
I think we lost Eddie.
We lost it. Eddie was on for most of the meeting.
He was.
We'll get him to check on that, Karen. Because
Okay.
he makes the contact with KU to get them put up.
Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mark?
Sorry. Mayor, to you and your staff, thank you. To our city employees and our first responders, thank you for what you do every day. And that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Willow?
I want to echo my thanks. I think it's a good day to be a Georgetonian. I see so many positive things. I think all of us are feeling like spring is in the air. I want to thank Crystal Miller with Wedco for continuing to get our constituents vaccinated in an efficient and health conscious way. I know that's been a yeoman's task, and I'm very appreciative of all the efforts they're making. I also want to thank our fire department for the February 25th evacuation that went efficiently and well with the construction-induced gas leak. That could have been a disastrous situation. I think it's another indication that we have first-rate fire department and first responders, and I'm really proud of those efforts as well. As I'm very thankful for Officer Johnson and the miracle of his life. So lots of good things happening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Willa. Tammy.
I just wanted to say, great. This feels like a great meeting and great work tonight. It feels really good that we acted as one as a council. And I think I see great things on the horizon. That's all.
Thank you, Tammy. Connie?
Ditto to all of those things that everyone said. I'm very grateful for our first responders, our fire department, our police department, public works. They work hard, all of them. But I also want to say good news on Old Oxford and the judge coming over with that. That's going to take a heavy hit off of traffic committee. Thank you. I just wanted to say that Eddie and I spent some time together last week looking at some stormwater issues as well. I'm sure he brought that back to you. That's going to be coming to council soon. But we've also been looking at parking, and we're going to be getting with Devin soon and hopefully be bringing our traffic ordinance to council later. But thank you to everybody. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Connie. Greg?
Yeah, I just want to pass along my appreciation to Chief Bossy and Colson for what you do. I think it's a good meeting tonight. I think we made a great step forward in ensuring the community safety. Karen, your comment about the streetlights on Maplewood, I used to live there just about 2 years ago. I think that it could be a challenge. There's no sidewalks there, and there's no utility poles or anything. So that could be something that is going to take a little bit of consideration going forward. But yeah, it is a very dark street on that side of Old Armstrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Let's see, Todd.
Thank you, sir. Want to say thanks to all the first responders, police department, Chief Bossy and all of his staff, and Chief Colson and all of his people as well, for doing everything that they do. It's not falling on deaf ears, and this council and the previous council worked hard to make sure that we got the money that they have needed for a long time. So want to say that, and thank you and your staff for all the hard work that went into this. So that's all I've got.
Thanks, Todd. Let's see. Well, David, it looks to me like we saved the best for last.
I don't know about that. When you're batting cleanup, you sound like an echo tonight, because I just want to echo what everyone else has said. It was a good meeting, and I feel like we've worked at this for a very long time, and we've got some good results, and hopefully morale in city government is continuing to go up. And anyway, it's all good stuff. So congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If there is nothing else to come before the council this evening, folks, thank you very much. We will stand adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.